The economy's in bad shape, credit is tight, you need a loan, but the bank says no. What do? Well, you could just print your own money, because in tonight's Eye on America, Richard Schlesinger reports on tough times and a tender solution.
Some of the most beautiful towns in Massachusetts are tucked away in the Berkshire Mountains. In good times, tourist dollars also make these towns some of the most prosperous. But these are not good times.
This whole area really took a bad hit. And the recession in general, the first thing people will cut back on is summer home and leisure activities.
Dan Tazinski's produce farm almost went under last year in the depths of the recession. He used to depend on local banks to give him a yearly loan to see him through the winter. Getting $5,000 from the bankers was never a problem until last year.
They didn't laugh in my face, but they said, you know, thanks but no thanks. We don't need the business that badly. Cash was very hard to come by. So someone just wildly said, well, why not print your own? And, you know, you almost think of a Laurel and Hardy skit. That they're good, you know.
It's not legal, Dan.
It's not legal, no. It's just not legal.
Can't do it.
But we found out it was.
Dan and his wife Martha printed their own farm notes and asked their customers to become investors. It says, in farms we trust.
In farms we trust.
This is great. This is nothing about banks in here, you know?
No. We've replaced George Washington with a head of cabbage there.
Anyone could buy a farm note for $9 in the fall. Come spring, the note could buy $10 worth of produce. That's a 10% return. Dan thought that was a pretty good deal, and so did his customers. He sold $5,000 worth of farm notes to neighbors like Dale Colladon and saved the farm.
I really think we have a more dependable form of currency than the feds are issuing.
Your farm notes?
Our farm notes, because people know now that we're going to be here and that we will back those notes up. And it's not a question of...
but you back them up with potatoes and cabbage and strawberries.
You can eat those. Can you eat what Washington is giving you? They're giving you rhetoric. I mean, can you eat that?
No one here thinks they can do completely without the banks, but more and more merchants here in the Berkshires are discovering their customers can pull them through hard times, even though the banks can't or won't. In nearby Monterey, the 211-year-old General Store is still in business because of the notes owner Maynard Forbes issued. It worked for the Corn Crib Farm and for Frank Tortoriello, owner of the Deli, who financed a move to larger quarters, partly through his Deli dollars. Customers bought them for $9. 6 months later, they could buy $10 worth of sandwiches. So the banks didn't think that you were worth taking the risk.
But the people did. And that's, you know, that's where I think the whole point lies as to why it works. Because the people had more faith in us than, you know, the banks do.
Ironically, one of the people who bought Deli dollars was Eugene Hannon, vice president of a local bank, who had earlier turned Frank down for a loan.
He can repay my Deli dollars because I'll take it out in corned beef sandwiches. All right? But he can't make loan payments with corned beef sandwiches.
Frank Tortoriello needs more money to expand his business again, so he's selling more Deli dollars. This time he didn't even ask the bank for help. And with any luck at all, Dan Tazinski's farm will get through the winter months this year with the money from another batch of farm notes. A financial solution as homegrown as his produce. Richard Schlesinger, CBS News, Great Barrington, Massachusetts.
And that's the news. Bob Schieffer sitting in tonight for Dan Rather.